Hello everybody, welcome to 1,000 Little MS Things. Good to see you all. And on today we have my friend Claus again, as always.
Hello.
And we're today meeting a girl called Deb to talk about MS things. So Deb, introduce yourself to our listeners, please.
Hi, I'm Deb. So do you want to know a bit about me, or?
Sure, please.
Yeah.
Sure. So I'm 57 years old. I live in the Southern Shire in Sydney. I have two sons, 21 and 19. And I've been diagnosed with MS now for 33 years.
Wow.
So I lived quite well with it. I probably had it for a few years before I was diagnosed. So I was a student nurse when I was having symptoms, and when you're nursing and studying, you just kind of get every disease that you're studying. I just wrote it off as other things, but I was finally diagnosed. And I was actually diagnosed a month before I was planning to come to Australia to backpack for a year. So when the neurologist said, my parents were there and waiting outside, when he said, what would you like me to tell your parents? I said, can you tell them anything, basically, just tell them it's okay to go to Australia. So that's exactly what he did. I came to Australia and then later moved here. So I deliberately didn't get a definitive diagnosis back then because I didn't really want to know. But they did. I was actually lucky because the hospital I worked in, there was very few MRI scans back then. But because the hospital I worked in had the National Spinal Injuries Unit there, so they had an MRI scanner, which were quite rare. But they made me have an MRI scan of my spine because they wanted to make sure I didn't have a spinal tumour because I presented with gait problems. Mm-hmm. But I didn't have anything on my spine at that time. So I kind of went a few years in delirious denial before I had, some pretty significant problems. But so that was my journey. I'm still working. I'm a registered nurse. I work as an educator now in aged care. So a lot of my career has been in aged care because it went down the management route, obviously, because my mobility was actually good for many, many years. And I think I told you what happened not long after I came back to Australia. So I came to Australia for the backpacking year, and then I went back to the UK and applied for my residency. And not long after I got back, I started having seizures, and they were quite severe. And I know it's a rare thing. I tend to get the rare things. So I ended up being intubated for a few days. And so then they said, you need to get out of shift work because they thought that the night duty was triggering my seizures. But in many ways, it probably saved me because I lost my driving license and I just could not stand walking a kilometre to the train station and then getting a train. And then I hated the whole thing. So I just decided to walk to work, which at that time was 10 kilometres. So I used to walk because at that time, during a relapse, I'd have problems with my mobility, but the rest of the time it was okay. So I literally started walking 10 kilometres to work. I would do a full shift. I was working as a manager then. And then walk 10 kilometres home. And I often used to walk faster than the traffic because I could. Yeah. And then I moved jobs. So then it was a 13-kilometre thing to work. So I used to get up at 4:30 in the morning, walk 2 hours to work, do a full shift, and most often walk 2 hours home again.
And then rain in the snow as well?
Yeah. So anything. Yeah, it didn't matter what the weather was. I would still do it. And when they often my MRI scans are horrible. They just look terrible. And, often when I changed neurologists once, I remember bouncing into, it was probably about 10 years ago, I bounced into his rooms and he was looking behind me and he said, "Are you Deborah?" And I was like, "Oh, yeah." And he said, "Oh, I wasn't expecting you to bounce in here. I've just seen your scans." He said, "They're really awful." And I said, "Yeah." But he actually has, because I go to the MS clinic in Sydney at the Brain Mind Institute, and they have a physio there who has a PhD in MS, and he could not work it out. He's like, "Why are you so good? Your brain looks horrible. Your spine looks like it's been eaten by something." And he just basically, then he asked my history, and I talked about all this walking that I did. And he said, "Well, clearly neuroplasticity, you've just created new nerve pathways."
Oh, I love that.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
That's good. Wow.
Yeah, and that's where the whole, then we did this charity walk from Mudgee to Sydney. That was, yeah, mad.
Mad.
So
That's crazy.
yeah, and then we walked across England. So
Wow.
And now your son's doing the walk too now, right? Your son's doing
yeah,
a
he's
run,
going to
right?
run it. He's going to run it. So he's doing 6 marathons in 6 days.
Incredible.
To raise money for MS. I
No.
love that. It's beautiful.
Yeah, so no, that's he talked about doing it last year. He wanted to do it, and then he said, "Oh, I think I might do Mudgee to Sydney and following your footsteps." So yeah,
Beautiful. I like the connection. That's really nice, I think, too.
yeah,
Which is good.
So it'll be nice. Well, I'm going to drive. I've got to be the support vehicle, so it'll be nice. And like a few of my friends that who did the walk are keen to sort of come for bits of it to meet in Mudgee, so which is really nice.
So you're still working now then?
Yes, I work part-time. My mobility is not fabulous now. I was doing really, really well a year after we did the walk across England. So we did the walk across England in 2014, and then almost a year to the day, I had this massive relapse which came out of nowhere, and it literally just took out my left side. It was the biggest relapse I'd ever had. I'd had relapses where I'd lost significant mobility, but never like this. It was like I'd had a stroke. It was quite awful. And I did get back. I got back so that I was walking without crutches or anything, and I could walk probably 5 or 6 kilometers. But I never got back what I'd had. And then a couple of years ago, where are we now? 25 years. So 2023, I had this sudden loss of vision in both eyes, which was really horrific. It was really scary. And it actually wasn't optic neuritis. It was a lesion on my occipital lobe. So I wasn't blind, but I had no useful vision. So I couldn't focus on anything. It was like I had someone else's glasses on. It was really weird. But that knocked my mobility. It was interesting because I couldn't see.
Proprioceptors.
I just couldn't. Right. I never really got it back brilliantly from then. Okay. And then I could still walk without sticks. Like I was walking with sticks when I couldn't see. And then I could walk without sticks still. And I just, but I never, even though my vision came back eventually, it took about a month. I don't know, maybe it was a confidence thing as well. But I've never been able to walk like I could walk 3 or 4 kilometers quite easily, but I just never got that. And I keep convincing myself if I put the work in that maybe I could, because work takes up, you know how it is. You go to work and then you're exhausted. So there's a few people pressuring me saying you should give up work, but yeah. And it was actually I had an injury. I hurt my Achilles, and I think that like probably about 6 months ago, like I've had an on and off thing with it, and so then I was limping quite badly with that, and so then I started using a crutch trying to heal that, and I think I've become a little bit dependent on it. I still don't use a stick at work, but anything from like longer than a few blocks. Yeah, I really need to use it, which I hate. I really am trying to get away from it, but I'm a fool's risk without it, really.
Yes, I think the falls are what gets us in the end.
And you had a similar experience with your vision, is that right, Claire?
My vision's been very I've been damaged all the way along, so it's getting worse and worse over time.
Did you lose the eyesight?
Back years ago, I lost eyesight altogether, but it's come back. I can see you if you're not right now, but I can't read. Well, I can see things, but they're kind of fuzzy. Nothing's ever. My clarity's all gone.
Yeah, so that's when I got off optic neuritis. That's what it would be like. It was, it's like you kept trying to wash your glasses. But it was weird when it happened. I'd had this massive week at work. We'd had accreditation at work, and I'd just been pulverized by this awful assessor. And it was obviously the stress. I'd worked like 60 hours in the week or something, and it was the following. But I couldn't quite pick what was going on. It happened sort of quite gradually. And it was only I went to work on the Monday and opened my computer and I thought, I can't read a single word that's written on there. It was really bizarre. And then it flashed really quickly. like, because I thought I really probably shouldn't be driving the car. So I went home, and then I had to go to the ophthalmologist, and I went by train, but I couldn't see the annunciator because it was a big lesion, and I presented like a brain tumor really, because what he was explaining, you can see half of everything.
Oh, the ranger.
And it was happening in both eyes, which is why I wasn't blind. Like I say, I could see shapes and I could see light and dark.
Yes.
I just couldn't read, and it was very unsettling not being able to, yeah.
The clarity goes.
And then for I'm thinking like similarities wise, like is that when your walking became harder as well? Because you were saying when you lost your vision, like that's when you kind of was that the same?
No,
for you
my
then?
walking was bad from the beginning.
okay.
It doesn't correlate with my eyesight, and my walking was just, they were on different trajectories there. Eyesight was bad all along, so it happened slowly.
And
Affects your balance. How many years have you lived with MS?
Since 1999, which is 20, how long is that?
26.
26 years, yeah. So,
Right,
enough,
yeah,
but I
yeah.
am. But what, can I ask a question I'm curious about? What medications have you been on? Because I'm curious in England what medications were available to you.
Well, so I was diagnosed in 92. There was nothing. There was just no, it was like good luck, you know. And I remember my neurologist saying to me, I just saw a general neurologist over here. He wasn't an MS specialist, because I worked on a neuro ward. That was what was embarrassing, because if I was working on a neurological ward and then I'm having seizures, it's not cool. So, and I remember him at one point saying to me, looking at because he referred to it as spinal MS, because my symptoms were like, a lot of my lesions were in the spine at that stage. There was some in my brain, but not so many. And he was really worried about it. And I remember him showing me the scan and saying, it looks like something's been eating it. And I said, what can I do? And he said, buy a rabbit's foot, because there was nothing. And then I remember beta-ferron came out in about 96, I think it was.
Yeah.
97, something like that. And I was so lucky, because in the UK, people were begging to get medication and couldn't get it depending on what postcode they lived in. And here was him ringing me constantly, leaving messages on the answering machine saying, I want you to take this drug.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So I was really fortunate. So I took that for a few years. Did I take any? Did I just take that up? I think I took that up until when I had my children. And then I had 2 kids back to back.
Yeah.
And like pregnancy, I loved it, because my MS all but went away. Did you have the experience? Yeah.
I can be pregnant forever.
I should be a surrogate. No,
Yeah, good. The same one with that. I should be a surrogate for life, but it didn't happen.
100%, because it was funny, because I was pregnant with a few friends at the same time, and they're all like going, I'm really tired. I'm like, oh my God.
And then you get right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So that was really nice. And then I did have a big relapse after my second son. After the first one wasn't too bad, but the second son, I had quite a big one once I stopped breastfeeding him, which is a common thing too, I think.
Yeah, it hits you.
But yeah, but like when I had this thing happen with my eyes, he was like, you're so weird, because so sorry, if we go back, I took beta-ferron until I had the children. Then I had I think I didn't medicate for, oh no, that's a lie. So yes, after I had a relapse after my stopped breastfeeding Josh, my second son, I went on a trial for fingolimod, which was Galenia.
Yes.
They renamed it Galenia after the trial.
Yeah.
So I was on the trial, but I got the Avanex, because it was a Galenia versus Avanex trial.
Yes.
But I could tell from the side effects that I was having Avanex. So that was a once a week injection. Hated it.
It's horrible. Avanex is a horrible drug. It's this giant thing. The giant thing, you stab yourself, it's awful.
Yeah, and it wrote me off. Like, you'd take it and then for 2 days you'd be horrible.
What's the point? Yeah.
I didn't like it, but I stuck with it because I knew that if I stayed on it for the year, they'd give me the fingolimod once I finished.
Okay, it's strong, yeah.
So then I took that probably for 8 or 9 years, actually.
Avanex, really?
No, not Avanex. No, the fingolimod, the Galenia, because it was oral. That was the first oral drug, right?
Oh, okay. That's good, yes.
Yeah, so I took that, and then I think I became a bit rebellious because I was concerned about being on this drug Because I don't know, I got you put your head into different spaces. My brother died. My brother got brain cancer. He didn't know he had it, but he had a brain bleed and died very suddenly. And because my dad had been diagnosed with cancer at a young age as well, I just suddenly got it into my head, I don't want to take this drug anymore because I've got these horrible genes. And which was a bit silly, really, because probably I may not have had that relapse in 2015 because I was off medication at that time.
What happened? Okay.
So who knows? Anyway, I did what I did. And I didn't actually go back on anything for quite a while because I still had these silly ideas in my head that I didn't want to take medication. And it was after I had the issue with my eyes, he said, I have to take something,
What did you take then?
So now I'm on Mayzent, which is for secondary progressive MS, although he's like, he always says I'm a bit of an anomaly because you're not supposed to keep relapsing.
You're relapsing even now?
Well, the thing that I had 2 years ago was quite clearly a relapse.
So
and the fact that I recovered from it too, he's like,
That's unusual. So you go ups and downs still. Yours is not constantly MS.
Well, no. I think I would. I don't know if this is a thing, but I would say I'm secondary progressive, but I have the odd relapse just for fun. I don't know.
Why not?
But I don't know. I haven't really noticed a progression.
Wow.
Probably in the last since I injured my Achilles. That probably was a bit of a trigger, but I think there's part of me that just needs to, I'm convinced that if I could just have every day to do intensive rehab, I still believe I could be better. Because on the days, like I had a fall the weekend before last, I had a massive fall. So I use a stepper every day.
Yeah.
And like I've got a recumbent bike and I try and do exercise every day. But after I had the fall, I just had a nasty bruise and it was sore. So I couldn't use the stepper. It was hurting. And I've noticed even in that time that my walking is not, I'm more prone to tripping and all those things. So it is really about keeping that, like if I don't stay on top of it.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, that's how you feel.
That's how I feel about going to the gym, doing work every day or every other day. It keeps me upright, I guess, which is important.
Yeah. What do you do at the gym?
I do mostly weights work. I'm trying to keep my body strong. All my muscles got to stay. I'm trying to avoid falls.
And what's your bad side again, Claire?
My right side is my bad side. So I try to exercise both sides equally, but also trying to avoid falls. Try to make sure I keep my muscles strong enough to not have more falls because the falls wreck me in the end.
And you also horse ride.
And a horse ride. Horse riding helps a lot.
Oh, wow.
Horse riding helps a lot.
I went horse riding a couple of years ago and I loved it. It was so funny. I got on this horse and I was wobbling all over the place and I thought, what on earth was I thinking? But by the end of it, the guy that took me out on his horse, it was his horse. And he was so patient with me. And by the end of it, I was like, look at me. It was so cool. But he's not in my life anymore, unfortunately, because it was a really nice time when, it was so fun.
Yeah.
But I did go to the local riding stables, but they were scared of me, I could tell, because I said, I'd really like to do some riding. And they were like, and I explained I had MS, but you could just see the terror in their faces. I thought,
that's not good. They should be helping you.
Yeah, and finding the right people who have got also the right education and
exactly. I could just see we were not going to be a fit.
Yeah. So I think the MSM and riding horses, it's like a natural therapy for us. We feel better for it, and we heal for it.
We're really big promoters on like how much healing they can bring.
Horse therapy is important.
Anyone with all kinds of diseases or illnesses or disabilities.
I get it, and I remember at the time him saying the horse knows. Like he knew. He was this beautiful horse and he just, like he was so gentle with me and it was like he knew,
They read you.
All the experiences with the different horses that have been around Claire in the big herds, like they never ever once have knocked
They don't
her
hurt me
over.
They don't
or
attack.
even if they spook and they're near Claire, they'll always...
They never kick me, ever.
Yeah, avoid.
They kind of should, but they don't.
And even when you're on their back and they'll have a spook or something, like they're pretty good at bringing themselves back so they don't go too crazy.
They control themselves.
Yeah.
It was like, because like I say, I was wobbling all over the place and I thought, oh, what on earth have you done, Deb? This is a really daft idea. But it was literally the horse, he just knew. Because like Pete had to get a step for me to get up onto the horse as well. Like he'd really thought it through. So the horse obviously knew there's something different about this girl. But it was really it was a really nice experience.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm so glad it was a good experience for you. It should be more like that for everyone.
Yeah. Have you watched that movie too? It's on Netflix now. I think it's called Take My Hand or something like that. There's a movie.
Are you joking?
It's about Claire.
It's me. That's my movie.
I didn't know that. Of course, duh. Sorry, I didn't realise.
Joking, I said you joking. How funny. I really thought you were saying it's so funny.
I love that you didn't know that though. That's even better.
We thought you did this because you drew the movie. It's so funny. That's such refreshingly.
Story.
Yeah. No, you're not an idiot because it's different names.
It's different,
Yeah, because you're when you're riding on the thing, riding along the beach, and I'm like, I want to do that.
Yes,
That's so cool. Yeah. But obviously you rode before your MS as well.
No,
that's
this is the thing.
That's just Hollywood.
The movie's all back to front. Doesn't actually marry up.
Yeah, there's a lot that are similarities, but there's a few things that aren't. And the horse, tell her the story of when you woke up in the hospital bed.
Yeah, I will. You are. Oh, hardly. But when my MS started 1999, so a long time ago, and I had years and years of bad years. And then at one stage, I really bad relapse, and my husband then, who's now unfortunately passed away, I said to him, I couldn't walk, I couldn't see, I couldn't do anything. I was so sick, and I was in there for months. And I was preparing myself, being in the hospital, having therapy and things. And then he comes in one day, and I said, I want to ride a horse. And he goes, Claire, you can't even walk. You can't even get out of bed yet. Let's think about that first. And I said, well, I just want to ride a horse. And out of nowhere, there was just like this thing in my head. And so when I got better, like months, but better, and I eventually learned how to ride a horse. So it was kind of the trajectory was differently. I sort of learned to ride a horse after I was sick, not before.
Right. How fantastic. I love that.
It's been a journey.
And I think as well, watching Claire's progression with horse riding over the last 6 years that we've known each other, she's gotten really a lot better and better. And I think having a disease like MS, you're told that you're not going to get better a lot of the time, but to be able to achieve a goal like that.
Now you've inspired me. Now I have to go find a riding school.
Because it's such a beautiful, and also think about Deb, the horse, when you went to get on a horse, I've said this before another quote. It's like the horse is your legs for you. So if your legs don't work very well, they're a bit wobbly. Yeah. Horses don't have that, of course. So you get on a horse and you feel very active and very able, even though you're not. So the horse is like my horse. It makes me feel quite invincible. I can do this. I can go up a hill and I can go fast up here. I can do these things. And so you kind of get this nice feeling of immortality, which is not true at all, but I feel like that a little bit.
Well, I remember, because I don't know how it's for you, but so I have quite altered sensation in my legs as well. But if you have feedback, like even with, say, Pilates reformer, when you're pushing on something, you could get more sensation. And I felt the same when I was sitting on the horse, because when I first got on the horse, I was like, ooh, I was all over the place because I didn't know where I was. I couldn't feel where my legs were. But then having my legs, flat against the horse, then you suddenly could. And that's when I could, here's my core all of a sudden. I found it. And I could find my space. So that's it now. I've got to go find somewhere.
It's therapy.
It's such incredible exercise as well. You pretty much use almost every muscle in your body when you're riding a horse as well, but on a minimal level in some way. So it can be, we're really big advocates. Like, get on the horse, do it, even if you're scared or you're sick or whatever.
Good, yeah. Like you say, you've got to find the right people.
Riding with the disabled, there's a lot of RDA around Melbourne and things like that, and Sydney, all throughout the country.
So,
that could be a good place to start, and then hopefully one day you can come here.
We don't think
it looks amazing wherever you are.
There's lots of horses here.
We're very grateful.
So do you ride every day?
No, I don't. I should, but I try and be twice a week, 3 times a week. I ride. I try to just to even just be in their presence is nice, just to see them.
Yeah. Oh, look, I agree. There's something very calming.
It is. They're beautiful creatures. They make you feel better, and they support you. It's just a beautiful connection, I think, to horses.
Yeah, no. Oh, that's really fabulous. I love that stuff. I still can't believe I didn't realise who you were. I feel so silly. Can you cut that bit out of the story?
That's beautiful because you didn't know that. You said, yeah, I'll put this movie up here about that.
And I love that you just enjoyed it, you know what I mean? You're not just saying it because it's Claire's movie.
Yeah, I love that story. That's so,
I hadn't read much about it.
It's legit. I love it.
I'm a massive Facebooker, and I saw the thing, and it's just because Josh, everything has been, and I also I love a positive story. Like I'm annoyingly positive sometimes, and I'm kind of like, well, here's a good story.
Be annoying positive. You can't be.
No, you can't.
You can only.
That's why your MS is not going to bring you down because you're so upbeat and so positive. I reckon it helps. I'm a big believer that with MS is that if you're a negative person, you don't never upbeat, it'll get you worse. 'Cause I'm upbeat.
I've nursed people like that. I have, and I have many debates about the whole nature nurture thing about a positive mindset.
Yeah.
But are we born with it or are we not? But yeah, I'm really lucky. My brain naturally trips things into a positive, but I know that can be annoying to some people. It's like, can't you just, anyway.
It's only annoying to people who are negative.
Yes,
I get it too.
True.
You just gotta.
Because positive, like you call it all upbeat always. Back. You never upset about it. It's so nice.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. Like we can choose our reaction to things, right?
Okay, we do.
Yeah, I think it's like half, like with nature versus nurture. I think like there must be a part of you that it's just, who you are. Mm-hmm. But then there's, at least your parents like that or the people you're around. And I think it's a bit of both.
I think, I grew up in a house, my mum was quite sick when I was younger. She was diabetic and she had a few hospital admissions where she was quite ill. And then my dad got cancer when he was quite young the first time. He survived it though. Okay. And so I think, when I got MS, it was just kind of like, and also being a nurse, you'd seen I was kind of like, oh, okay, that's what I get, even though I didn't say that consciously. And it was funny because my older son, when he was 8, got arthritis from a bug. We went to India because my brother got married over there, and he got a bug and he got reactive arthritis from it. And I remember he was 8 years old. I remember he said to me, "Oh, mummy, so you've got MS and so I get arthritis. Your grandma's got diabetes, you got MS, so I just have arthritis." Like it's like, yeah, that's just and that was just his. I mean, luckily it went away. It wasn't But yeah, it was just like, and I suppose that maybe how I looked at it, I just thought, well, actually, if I'm going to be truthful, I think I just denied it for a long time.
Okay.
I just pretended I didn't have, like, this top Oxford neurologist was saying, I'm 99% sure that's what's wrong with you. And I'm thinking, yeah, what do you know? Like, it's like, so that was worked really well for quite a few years, really.
Well, it worked for you. It was good.
And tell us about that time period. So you were diagnosed. How old were you again?
Yeah.
So I was 24 when I was diagnosed.
And then you went overseas immediately afterwards?
Yeah, so it was diagnosed in August. And I think I left on something like the 18th of September to go to Australia.
Oh my gosh. And what was that journey like? How long were you over here for?
So I did the backpacking thing, and there were things I look back and the heat would affect me sometimes, and I'd struggle a bit, like never. And when you get hot and your eyes go funny, you can't see very clearly because it's hot. But and I did have a little bit of a moment where I came off a running machine. I was on a treadmill in a gym, and there's an embarrassing story attached to that, which I won't go into. But anyway,
carry on. You can't do it.
I came off the running machine and ended up in hospital.
Oh my!
I was in hospital for 3 weeks because I damaged my shoulder quite badly. But because I remember going into ED, and my girlfriend was working an agency shift at the time, so she came down to the department, and they were about to give me pethidine or something for pain, because they'd said to me, "Oh, have you got any health issues?" And I said no. And then my girlfriend came down and they were about to give me pethidine, and she said, "Oh, is that all right for you to have that with your MS?" I said, "I don't know." So she goes to the doctor and she says, "Oh, it's okay for her to have pethidine when she's got MS." And he said, "You never told me that." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm not really sure that that's quite right or not." Anyway, so then they made me stay in hospital and have all these blooming tests because my hand had gone numb. But I had this horrible shoulder injury. So, I was saying, no, it's because I've damaged my shoulder, which needed surgery. But they made me stay in hospital and do all these blooming tests and tests on my eyes and tests on everything. I don't think they actually made me have an MRI scan. I don't think they did, because it wasn't until 95 when I came back. So I did the year, fell in love with an Australian like you do. I fell in love with the country first. I always say I fell in love with the country first and then the Australian. But I know to say I still love the country, but anyway. So yeah, it wasn't until night. So I went home in 93, literally the day my visa expired. Then went home to apply to come back, basically, which took about 18 months.
Oh, wow.
So it wasn't until January, it wasn't until after I had the seizures, they obviously I was unconscious, so they put me in an MRI scanner. And they're like, "Oh, you've got MS lesions." Oh, really?
Oh, really?
Because obviously I hadn't put that on my immigration paperwork. But interesting, it didn't ask the question. It actually did not ask the question. It did not. It said, "Do you have any nervous disorders?" I took that as a psychological thing.
You're like, no, I feel fine. It's MS. It's different. Yeah.
But I used to have nightmares for years that, like even when I was doing the charity work, the charity walks, and they put it in the media. So don't say how long I've been diagnosed for, because what if someone from the immigration
Oh, okay.
should never have come? Like, we wouldn't have let you in. So, like, please don't be immigration officials listening to this, right? You better take that out.
Where your mind?
But yeah, it used to worry me. It really did. I used to have this guilty conscience. But anyway.
Okay.
I think you're going to be in the clear, all the good you've done.
Well, hopefully, that's what I like to think. The good I've done is about the cost to Australia, hopefully.
So that we need good nurses.
And I think that we should talk some more in depth about the walk and then your son's run and like what the all the awareness, so we can
he's raising
so we can pretty much plug like the charity.
So the walk that we did, it was from Mudgee to Sydney. And it came about because
how far is that? Mudgee to Sydney?
270 kilometres.
Oh, how long did it take?
Yeah.
We did it in 10 days, which was actually, when I compare it to the walk across England, it was a walk in the park, literally. There was one day that was really tricky. And so it was actually organised by a lady called Katrina Hemingway, whose husband Mike has MS. And so she's a prolific fundraiser. She's amazing. And so she organised it, and it was 5 of us that walked the whole journey. And she's probably, how much older than me is she? 6 or 7 years older than me. And they, maybe as much as 8 years anyway, this group, they all went to school together. They all went to a Ravenswood School for Girls in Sydney. And so they were walking the whole way. And I had actually been to a wedding and got talking to a guy who just told me this really sad story about his wife who had motor neurone disease. And up until that point, I was really quite secretive about my MS. I wasn't, not secretive, but it wasn't something I really volunteered to people, and it wasn't obvious at all, really, unless I had a relapse. You couldn't tell. So I didn't tell people. Anyway, this man just told me this really sad story. He just was this beautiful man, and his wife was a pain specialist. He was he's a dentist, and he'd been in the Navy. They'd both been in the Navy. And I was just really affected by it. I was just really, oh my goodness, what a sad thing, because his wife was dying at the time and she wasn't at the wedding, and he was just telling me this story. And I was really affected by it. I can't tell you, it was just bizarre. And the next day, I was still thinking about it. And then I picked up some MS Insight magazine or something, and it had this advertisement for the walk in it. And I'd been saying to friends for ages I should do a sponsored walk, because I'd wanted to do that, that Oxfam 100K thing walk that they do. And I'd wanted to do that. And I was like, I'm going to do that one day. And if I can't do that, I'm going to do my own one. So it had been in my head because I was such a crazy walker. And then I saw this and I was like, well, here it is. I can just join this one. And I remember writing an email to Mike, Katrina's husband, saying, oh, well, I can walk this far. and if I have a rest, I can walk a bit further, and I think I'll be fine. And it was almost like I was writing a resume to him. And of course, and then I started training. That was it. Even before I had heard from them, I was like, I'm going training. And he rang and when I got home, my ex-husband said, oh, some guy called Mike rang you about a walk. And I was like, oh yeah. Anyway, I went and met with them. We did the Split Bridge to Manly walk, which is a really lovely walk. And I was really nervous, but I met them, just beautiful people. And I remember like really wanting to impress that my walking was good and all the rest of it. I remember we still talk about it. I'm like 200 meters from the end of the walk and I tripped on a tree root. And so I smashed down, but I had one of them either side, two people. I think Merrim was one. I can't remember who the other one was, but they literally just picked me up. They just went, whoops, picked me up and we carried on walking. And I thought, these are my people, because I'd never met anybody else who knew about MS before. And I remember on another occasion I was walking across some rocks and someone was talking to me, and I obviously went quiet because I was concentrating walking across these rocks. And I remember Katrina saying, be quiet, she's concentrating. And I remember I got quite emotional. I got a bit teary because I thought, oh my goodness, they get it. They understand. And at that point, I had not mixed with anyone. I did go to a support group, and I pretty much got kicked out because I was too positive. I didn't get kicked out, but I could just tell that it wasn't my vibe. They were just like, and I get it. You go to a support group to vent and all that, but I would always be like, but hey, and that's, yeah. Anyway, I wasn't a fit, clearly. I didn't get kicked out, but I just,
Courage.
Got to use your powers elsewhere.
Yeah,
exactly right. It just wasn't my gig. But yeah, so the model for the walk was, and we started in Mudgee, and then it was mapped out. You know, I think we walked between like 25 and 30 kilometers a day, maybe more than 30 some days. Wow. And really, comparatively, it was because it was mostly road walking. The day coming up through the Blue Mountains, I remember I struggled, but it was a hot day as well. But I managed it. And I thought, oh, you know, I'm never going to cope in the evenings, because they had different functions, fundraising functions in the evenings. And I thought, I'll never cope. I was fine. But at the time too, I had two small children, so I wasn't looking after my kids. So I think part of that was, you know, I'm just doing something for myself. And it was the first thing since my children were born I had done something for myself. So they were 5 and 6 years old by then.
Wow.
And I literally hadn't done anything. So, you know, I think I had the energy because I wasn't running around off these two little kids. And yeah, it was a wonderful experience. And what the model was, so the 5 of us walked the whole way. And actually there was a guy who lived in Lithgow who had MS.
Yeah.
Who hadn't been diagnosed that long, and he walked with us.
Oh.
And then different people joined us for different legs of the journey. Some people did 3 or 4 days of it. And no, it was just the 5 of us that did the whole lot. But yeah, we had a couple of 80-year-old women doing some of the weeks. That I think they started in.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was a really, and we raised a fortune. Like it was.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it was over $100,000.
Wow, good work, guys. That's really good.
I should have looked that up to know exactly what it was. But yeah, and the walk across England was even more. It was mental. But yeah.
Love that.
The walk across England was hard. It was much harder.
Now tell us about everything that your son's doing, and so we can get the word out.
Josh is, I don't think he's actually mapped it out exactly where he's stopping at. In fact, I know he hasn't, because he's 19 and everything you do it at the last minute, right? But I'm having to sort of go, oh, you know, do you think you might think about doing such and such? It's like, no, I've got it sorted. Okay. So, his plan is that he's going to run 42 kilometers and then run another 42. And we finished at Chatswood back then, because the charity that we were raising money back originally was a charity called MSRA, which it's been merged with Kiss Goodbye to Australia now. But this was an amazing man called Ian Ballard, who was a man who was diagnosed with MS. And he had a dream, and I can't remember the amounts, maths was never my thing, but he wanted to raise $5 million. He said if every person could raise this amount, we could raise $5 million. And he had this dream, and it was purely for research. So it stood for Multiple Sclerosis Research Australia. Unfortunately, he had a heart attack and died. But yeah, he was an incredible man. And his sister Jackie lives in England, and she actually did some of in fact, did she do the whole walk with us? She definitely did a lot of it with us.
Okay.
So yeah, it was a really good story there too.
MSRI.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
And so what's your son's name?
So Josh, it's on Josh, the 5th. It starts on the 5th. The 5th.
Oh, amazing.
He starts on Monday the 5th and he finishes on the 10th, and he's going to finish at Mudgee. So yeah, and he's got friends that, are going to support him doing different things, and he's running by himself. He doesn't want to run with other people. He just wants to run by himself.
Is he shy, or do you want to get him on screen for a second?
Hey, Josh, do you want to come and say hello?
Yeah.
He's not shy.
Yeah, good.
Hi, how are you doing?
Hey,
Josh.
good. How are you? This is Claire.
Hi.
I'm Claudia.
Lovely to meet you.
Yeah, we just want to
Likewise.
hear about your run. Tell us all the info.
Yeah, so it's on May 5th from Mudgee to Coogee, but I was going to make the brand Mudgee to Coogee, but did Mudgee to Sydney because it's M2S for MS. And then it's May 5th to May 10th, and I'll finish up at Coogee. So it's I think it's 270k, so 45k a day. And I hope to do it in 6 days. So it's 45k a day, so just over 6 marathons in 6 days.
Oh,
Hectic.
That's pretty
Have you run a
good.
marathon before, or a couple?
No, my furthest is about 40k, so I'm close. I'm pretty close, but I've got sort of a run plan leading up to sort of the next month to sort of get myself prepared.
Yeah, I think it's more willpower than training.
Yeah, 100% it is. It's all about my
Yeah, he's a very focused individual.
Oh, epic. We'll make sure to get
look
the
like
link
you.
of for the donations, and we'll share it
Yeah,
with everyone
yeah,
on the
great.
platform.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
hopefully get some coin in there for you. So such a good thing that you're doing.
Yeah, you're a good son.
Cheers.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Josh. Well, nice to meet you.
That's all right. Well, good luck, guys.
Good luck.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
That's awesome.
He's
I
so
like that.
lovely.
A nice boy.
Yeah, no, he's a good boy. I'm lucky.
Yeah.
They're good eggs.
Good eggs.
But anyway,
That's it too. Good
I think
eggs.
you've been a good mum.
Say again?
Being a good mum, he wouldn't be doing
Oh,
it.
look,
Everything
look, it takes a village, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. That's true.
I'm very aware of that, and particularly living on the other side of the world from your family. And you would have known that when you were living in London.
That's why I moved back here.
Yeah.
That's very hard when you're away.
It's but I have got an amazing bunch of friends. And that's I always say MS has opened more doors for me than it's closed.
wow.
That's a good quote.
I really do have an amazing, and a lot of those people were from Mudgee to Sydney, because like I say, prior to that, and it was really weird because after, obviously they started putting in the newspaper and things like that, and people go, I didn't know you had MS. Do you need some help? Do you need me to pick the kids up from school? It's like, no, I'm really fine, because I hadn't told anyone. So it was quite, quite cathartic to actually open up and realise that people still wanted to be your friend.
You share.
And,
Nice.
yeah, I don't know if you found that, but so the friendships I've got, they're my closest friends today, some of those people that I walked Mudgee to Sydney with.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I look at it, really. That I would never have walked across England.
That's crazy that you did that. How long did that
Across
take?
country.
Yeah.
How long did that take? Guys, that's horrible. I can't remember. Oh, actually, we did it really fast, because it's actually it's a planned walk. It's called the Wainwright's Walk,
Okay.
and I think most people do it in 19 days or 20 days. We did it in like 17 or something silly. Katrina, who organised it, because the same lady that did the Mudgee to Sydney organised this. She's very competitive. Like she's super fit, and so she likes to do things fast. Like she was always streets ahead of us. But she, so we did it really quickly. We did it, I think, did we walk for 11 days and had 1 day off or something?
Oh, good on you,
It
machine.
was hard, really hard. Some days I thought, what on earth am I doing? But I mean, my mobility was still much better than it is now, obviously. But
Goes down. That's true. So where are you from in England? Where are you from in England? Whereabouts?
Hertfordshire, North London.
I hate nothing.
Yeah, where did you live when you were in London?
All over, I guess. Initially in England, I was in London, in Fulham, and then Battersea. Then I moved to Burnham for the last 10 years. In Burnham, where I had.
Yeah, my dad was a policeman in London.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's
Well,
Yeah, I was very close to my dad. He died a few years ago. He died in 2021. But yeah, I'm very much a daddy's girl.
Oh.
But yeah, amazing man. I think, yeah, a lot of people say I'm like him, but which is a big compliment because he's lovely.
Yeah, it feels good. I like that. That's
Yeah,
good.
when you meet someone like yourself who's, got a lovely personality and character, you think you must have had pretty amazing
Good dad.
parents in there to make you the way you are.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, no, yeah, I was very lucky. He was a very simple man in many ways, but yeah, he was loved by everyone that met him, even my friends over here. He came out here quite a lot. And that was the other plus. So when I left England, my dad was scared to fly. And he said to me, darling, you'll have to come home to see me. Because he had bad experience back on his honeymoon where they circled the airport for hours and he was terrified to fly. But when I had the seizures, the neurologist rang my parents and said, she's sick. And my mum said, I'll come. And he said, you need to bring your husband. I don't know, she's not very well. And so my dad had to come. There's no way my dad would have come to Australia if that had not happened. And then he came many, many times after that.
It's a big flight
God.
too. Not a small flight, that one.
Yeah. But so, yeah, I remember waking up and thinking, now exactly where am I here? I realised I was in hospital, but I'm thinking, what are my parents doing here?
Everyone's here. What happened? Yes.
And
sure.
before we go, Deb, maybe one last question. What's next for you in either, next chapter, something you want to achieve or...
Yeah, look, I really don't know. I've often thought that I need a challenge, that I need to...
Seems like you like to have one.
To get me moving. So, yeah, let me think about that because... I feel like I love what you're doing. Like I would love to do, not necessarily podcasts. I'm not really techie, but I feel like there's something I could give back. There's something, I don't know, that maybe I can inspire some people that are newly diagnosed or whatever.
You can.
That because, whilst it's a horrible diagnosis, it's, there's so much we can do and we're learning so much more about diet and exercise and all those things that I sometimes stick to. But because it's about living too, right? But yeah, it's that. I think I would. I'm not very a very ambitious person in some ways. Kind of doors open to me. And I seize them, but I'm not very good at going and looking for things, but maybe I should.
No, I can relate to that.
Yeah.
It's nice. Sometimes you just got to wait, if opportunity comes, this will do. Let's go.
Yeah, I'll grab it with both hands and I'll gold plate it, but I'm just not very good at, I have all these great business ideas in my head sometimes and we go, you could do that. Yeah, no, so, but I'm not very money driven as well. That's why I'll be no good in business. So
You're a nice person for it.
But definitely keep us posted on your journey and let us know.
I will do. Yeah, it's been lovely to talk to you. And I feel like I'm talking to a film star now. So how cool.
No.
Yeah, you have to rewatch the movie.
That was such a good story. And I was scared to watch it because I thought it might be sad. Well, it was sad, but I thought it might have a sad ending.
No.
So I was scared to watch it. Like everyone told me about it. I was like, oh no, I don't think I can watch.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
If you look back at the end, right at the end, you of the family and stuff, you'll be able to see Claire now, and you go,
on the horse at the very end. See me on the horse at the very end.
That's I felt embarrassed.
No embarrassment.
No, don't be embarrassed. I'm glad you don't know it all. It's awesome. It's very good.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm really thrilled to meet you. It's really nice and it's great. So, do you have a lot of listeners there? To your podcast?
Do we?
I think on the YouTube there's a couple of thousand on some of the YouTubes. So I guess it depends, but and the group on Facebook is pretty big.
It's pretty big, yes.
And it's just only growing.
Being a little platform
I should become
growing.
more involved. So I hope you got some more stories. Did you get lots of positive stories?
Yeah, we've got a lot of stories, a lot of people getting involved, which is great. I'm trying to researching things too, which is exciting.
Yeah, we've spoken to some incredible people, lots of similarities within the disease and lots of differences, and it's just, everyone has got something
Everyone's
to
story is
share.
different. As you know, everyone's story, MS story is always different. So it's good to get different types of like MS sufferers, hate the word, MSs.
Yeah, I hate that word. They used to call them that in England.
Yeah, they do.
If you're a
MS
sufferer, they have like things with their MS support group and they'd have outings. And if you're a sufferer, it was cheaper. And I just think, I am not being a sufferer. That is not.
Straight away, it's horrible. Put you down.
And you're both incredible women with great stories, and you know,
Thank you.
like
we try. That's just. I've really enjoyed talking to you. So you've inspired me now because like I say, I get involved with stuff and then I don't. So now I feel like I should.
We'll talk again.
Yeah, keep us posted and send us any information about the run. When we post the episode, and we'll put it on the Facebook page and Claire's Instagram.
You'll
and
see it too.
Yeah, hopefully get some donations.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. It's lovely talking to you.
Thanks, Deb. Good to meet you too.
We'll see you next time.
See you.
Bye.
Bye.